Good evening. Tonight we are going to leave the modern world entirely. We are going to step back into a time of rigid structure, heavy silence, and obsessive cleanliness. We are traveling to the year 1905 to a grand country estate in the English countryside. But we are not going to the dining room to eat a 12-course meal, nor are we going to the library to smoke cigars. We are going downstairs. We are going to the engine room of the house. We are going to perform a task that is repetitive, quiet, and strangely satisfying. We are going to polish the family silver. It is a task that requires no quick movements, no urgent decisions, and absolutely no digital screens. It is just you, a soft cloth, and a lot of tarnish. So, before we push through the green baize door, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you enjoy these slow, monotonous journeys into the past. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from. I love picturing our quiet guild of listeners scattered across the world. Now, take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let's begin. You are standing in the great hall. The floor is marble, black and white checkers stretching out under the dim light of the chandelier. You can hear the faint murmur of voices from the drawing room. The family is having tea. But you are turning away from the light. You walk toward a discreet door tucked away in the shadow of the staircase. It is a heavy door, covered in green baize. A thick, felt-like fabric studded with brass upholstery tacks. A mainstream historical fact to orient you. The green baize door was the physical and symbolic barrier in an Edwardian house. On one side was the family, luxury, leisure, and light. On the other side was the service wing, work, discipline, and stone floors. The baize wasn't just decorative, it was soundproofing. It ensured that the clattering of pans and the gossip of the servants never disturbed the tranquility of the aristocracy. You push the door open. It swings heavy and silent on well-oiled hinges. As it closes behind you with a soft whump, the sound of the house cuts out instantly. You are in a different world. The air here is cooler. The smell of beeswax, potpourri, and expensive perfume is gone, replaced by the smell of stone, carbolic soap, and damp wool. You are walking down a long flagstone corridor. The walls are painted a practical glossy cream color up to waist height, easy to wash, and a dull green above. Your footsteps echo slightly on the stone. Click, dot, click, die, click. You pass the kitchen. You can smell roasting meat and hear the clatter of a copper pot, but you keep walking. You pass the servants' hall, where a clock is ticking loudly on the wall. You keep walking until you reach the sanctity of the male staff's domain. You stop at a door marked Butler's Pantry. You turn the brass handle and step inside. This is your kingdom for the evening. It is a small, cozy room, lined from floor to ceiling with glass-fronted cabinets. Inside those cabinets, even in the dim light, you can see the glint of metal. Rows and rows of it. This is the plate room. In a grand house, the plate, the silver, was the second most valuable thing after the land. It was the family's bank account in physical form, and you are its guardian. The room is warm. A small coal fire is burning in the grate, casting a flickering orange glow on the wooden drying rack suspended from the ceiling. In the center of the room stands a massive table made of scrub pine. A quirky fringed tidbit. The butler's pantry was often the most fortified room in the house. While the family slept with their doors unlocked, the butler slept outside the pantry door, sometimes with a shotgun or a heavy truncheon. The silver was worth more than the art on the walls. In some houses, the pantry had a sleeping boy duty, where a junior footman had to sleep on a mattress across the threshold, so no burglar could enter without stepping on him. You walk to the table. You run your hand over the surface. It is covered in a thick, green felt cloth, pinned tight at the corners. It is soft under your fingertips. It is a surface designed to be gentle, to ensure that no silver spoon ever meets a hard piece of wood. The room is silent, except for the fire popping and the settling of the coal. It is a silence that feels industrious but calm. There is no rush here. The dinner service is over. The washing up is done. Now, there is only the maintenance of the shine. You take off your jacket and hang it on a peg. You roll up your shirt sleeves. You reach for a heavy canvas apron, stiff with starch, and tie it around your waist. The strings pull tight. You feel held. You feel ready. You are not just a servant. You are a conservationist. You are about to engage in a battle against chemistry, against the air itself. You are about to fight tarnish. You stand before the green felt table. It is an altar of domestic service, illuminated by the low, steady light of the oil lamp hanging above. Before you can begin the work, you must prepare the instruments. You open a deep wooden drawer under the workbench. It slides out with a heavy, satisfying friction, wood on wood, swollen slightly by the damp English air. Inside, there is a jumble of softness. You reach in and pull out the chamois leathers. They are yellowish tan, smelling faintly of oil and animal skin. You unfold one. It is soft, floppy, and cool to the touch. It feels organic, almost like living skin. This is the primary weapon in your arsenal. A good chamois leather gets better with age. The older and oilier it gets, the smoother it buffs. You drape it over the edge of the table. It hangs there, heavy and limp. Next, the brushes. You arrange them in a neat line on the green baize. They look like toothbrushes made for a giant. Some are long and thin, designed for the fluting on a teapot. Others are broad and flat for the trays. A mainstream historical fact to consider as you arrange your tools. These are pure hog-hair brushes. In the Edwardian era, synthetic plastics didn't exist for this purpose. You needed natural bristles, stiff enough to dig the cleaning paste out of the intricate crevices of a Victorian fork, but soft enough not to scratch the soft surface of sterling silver. Using a harsh brush on the master's silver was a firing offense. A scratch meant the silver had to be sent away to London to be re-burnished, a costly and shameful error. You lay out the velvet cloths next. These are a specific brand of polishing cloth that was the gold standard, or silver standard of the time. They are velvet soft squares of cotton, designed to give the final, friction-free shine. The sound of placing these items is muted. Plap, dot-tow, swish, thump. The felt table absorbs everything. It creates a cone of silence around your work. Finally, you need the object of your attention. You walk to the safe, a heavy iron door set into the back wall of the pantry. You unlock it with a key that lives on a chain in your pocket. It turns with a heavy, mechanical clunk. Inside, wrapped in green baize bags to prevent scratching, are the pieces for tonight's rotation. A quirky fringed tidbit. In grand houses, the silver was often on a strict rotation schedule. There was so much of it, literally tons of metal, that it couldn't all be used or cleaned at once. Some pieces, like the massive centerpieces or the grand service, might only come out of the vault once a year for a royal visit or Christmas. The rest of the time, they sat in the dark, gathering tarnish, waiting for you. You reach in and pull out a heavy candelabra. It is massive, cold, and tarnished. The silver is dulled from a brilliant white mirror to a sad, yellowish gray. The air has done its work. Oxygen and sulfur have conspired to steal the shine. You carry it to the table with both hands. It is surprisingly heavy. You set it down in the center of the green felt. It sits there, dark and moody, reflecting the firelight in a dull, blurry smear. You look at the setup, the chamois, the brushes, the cloth, the metal. It is a tableau of potential. Everything is in its place. The preparation is half the pleasure. You aren't just cleaning. You are setting the stage for a transformation. You turn your attention to the small shelf above the workbench. Here sits a collection of tins, jars, and bottles that look more like the inventory of a Victorian apothecary than a cleaning cupboard. There are no bright plastic spray bottles here. There are no aerosol cans. Everything is contained in glass, ceramic, or tin. You reach for a round, shallow tin. The label is faded, peeling slightly at the edges, featuring an engraving of a woman holding a gleaming shield. You pry the lid off with a faint pop. Inside is a fine pale pink powder. This is rouge. Or rather, a specific blend of jeweler's rouge, finely ground iron oxide, mixed with precipitated chalk. It is a soft, dusty substance that feels like silk if you rub it between your thumb and forefinger. It is the color of a faded rose petal. Next, you reach for a glass bottle with a cork stopper. The liquid inside is clear with a slight violet tint. This is the methylated spirits, denatured alcohol. Beside it sits a smaller, darker bottle, ammonia. Now, the ritual of the mix begins. You take a small, chipped porcelain saucer, a survivor from a tea service that broke 20 years ago and was demoted to the pantry. You spoon a small mound of the pink powder into the center of the saucer. It sits there, a soft, dry mountain. You pull the cork from the bottle of spirits. Squeak. Pa-pa-da-ee. Immediately, the smell hits you. It is a sharp, biting scent. It is the smell of sterile cleanliness. It cuts through the musty, warm aroma of the coal fire and the damp wool of your apron. It clears your sinuses instantly. It is a cold smell, chemical and bracing. You add a splash of the spirits to the powder. The liquid beads for a second, then sinks in, turning the pale pink dust into a dark, strawberry-colored mud. You add just a drop of ammonia. The scent intensifies. Now it smells pungent, eye-watering if you get too close. It is the smell of serious work. In the Edwardian era, cleanliness was not just about hygiene. It was a moral imperative, and it smelled like harsh chemicals. A mainstream historical fact to consider while you stir the mixture. The cleaning agents of the early 20th century were effective, but they were not gentle. Plate powder was the standard. Before the invention of modern dip cleaners that use chemical reactions to instantly strip tarnish, silver cleaning was entirely mechanical. You were essentially creating a very fine liquid sandpaper. The chalk provided the grit to scrub away the oxidized layer, and the alcohol acted as the solvent to cut through the grease and grime of the dinner service, the remnants of gravy, goose fat, and fingerprints. You pick up a small stirring stick, perhaps an old toothbrush handle or a sliver of wood, and you begin to mix. You stir the powder and liquid together. Scrape, scrape, scrape against the china saucer. You are looking for a specific consistency. Too runny, and it will drip all over the green baize table and stain the felt. Too thick, and it will cake on the silver and be impossible to buff off. You want it to be the texture of heavy cream. Smooth. Uniform-eyed. Pink. Dot. You watch the swirls of white powder dissolve into the red liquid. It is mesmerizing. It's like mixing paint. You add a tiny bit more powder. You stir again. The smell fills the small room, masking the scent of the coal smoke. It creates a bubble of sterility around you. Now, you pick up the candelabra. It feels cold and heavy. You can see the tarnish clearly now that it is under the lamp. It isn't just a uniform gray. It is a landscape of discoloration. There are golden hues of light oxidation, deepening into purples and blues, and finally the charcoal black of heavy sulfurization in the deep crevices of the decorative scrolling. A quirky fringe tidbit. The black tarnish on silver is actually silver sulfide. It forms when silver reacts with sulfur in the air. In the Edwardian era, the air was full of sulfur. The coal fires burning in every room of the house, and the millions of coal fires burning in the villages and cities nearby, pumped tons of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. The London fog or pea soupers were famous for turning silver black almost overnight. In a way, by cleaning this silver, you are wiping away the physical evidence of the Industrial Revolution. You dip a small hog-hair brush into the pink sludge. You lift it out, heavy with the paste. You begin to apply it to the candelabra. You don't scrub yet. This stage is just the application. You paint the silver. You dab the pink mixture onto the base, working it into the fluting of the column. You push the bristles gently into the intricate leaves that curl around the candle holders. The wet paste looks dark and messy. It covers the gleam of the metal. To an observer, It looks like you are ruining a priceless object, coating it in pink mud. But you know the process. You work methodically. You start at the bottom and work your way up. You turn the heavy object on the felt cloth. Slide. Thump. You paint the other side. You make sure every inch of the metal is coated in a thin, even layer of the mixture. The smell of the ammonia is strong, but you have grown used to it. It just smells like evening to you now. It smells like the end of the day. You finish coating the candelabra. It stands there, transformed from a dull gray object into a strange, matte pink sculpture. Now, you must wait. You cannot polish it while it is wet. You have to let the spirits evaporate. You have to let the chalk dry into a crust. So you wait. Wait. You wipe your hands on a rag. You lean back against the edge of the workbench. You look at the drying silver. You watch as the dark, wet pink slowly lightens. The shine disappears completely. The surface becomes chalky, opaque, and dull. It looks dead. The room is very quiet. The fire in the grate has settled down to glowing embers, giving off a soft, pulsing heat. You can hear the grandfather clock in the hallway outside, ticking through the heavy oak door. Tock, tock. It is a slow, rhythmic heartbeat that governs the entire house. Outside, far beyond the shuttered windows of the pantry, you can hear the faint sound of rain beginning to fall against the glass. It is a gentle, tapping sound. The English weather is doing what it does best. The contrast between the cold, wet night outside and the warm, chemical-scented sanctuary of the pantry makes you feel incredibly safe. You are buried deep in the stone foundations of the house. The problems of the world, the politics, the wars, the changing times, cannot get through the green baize door. You look back at the saucer. The leftover paste has already hardened. The candelabra is almost dry. The pink coating has turned pale, like a dusting of frost. A darker fringe fact to ponder in the quiet, being a silver polisher was not without its risks. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, some cleaning pastes contained mercury, quicksilver, because it gave a brilliant instant shine. Unfortunately, it also slowly poisoned the servants, causing tremors, tooth loss, and madness. By 1905, mercury was largely illegal, or out of fashion for this use. But the ammonia you are using is still harsh. It dries your skin. It makes your cuticles crack. Old butlers often had hands that looked like dried parchment, known in the trade as plate hands. It was a badge of office, a physical toll paid for the family's vanity. You touch the side of the candelabra with your finger. The pink paste comes away as a dry dust. It is ready. The waiting is over. The chemical phase is finished. The liquid has done its work, loosening the grip of the sulfur on the silver. Now comes the physical phase. Now comes the friction. You reach for the softest of the brushes, a long, narrow one with bristles as soft as a baby's hair. You pick up the chamois leather. You take a deep breath of the ammonia-tinged air, holding it in your lungs for a moment before exhaling. You step forward to the table. The silence of the room seems to deepen in anticipation. The dull, pink, chalky object in front of you is about to be reborn. You pick up the dry, chalky candelabra with your left hand, holding it firmly by the base. It feels lighter now, as if the moisture evaporating from the paste has taken some of the heavy, sullen weight of the tarnish with it. With your right hand, you take the hog-hair brush, the one with the stiff, black bristles. You begin to scrub. It is a dry, scratching sound. Scritch, scratch, scritch. As you work the bristles into the ornate acanthus leaf swirling around the stem, a fine cloud of pale pink dust puffs into the air. It settles on your canvas apron. It settles on the green felt table, turning the emerald fabric into a dusty rose landscape. You breathe shallowly to avoid inhaling the powder, turning your head slightly to the side. This is the rough removal. You are knocking off the crust. As the dry paste flakes away, falling in little snowdrifts onto the table, the metal underneath is revealed. It is startling. Where there was dull, gray-yellow oxidation just an hour ago, There is now a flash of white fire. The silver, stripped of its sulfur coat, catches the light of the oil lamp and throws it back with an intensity that seems almost electrical. You work your way up the column. You jam the bristles into tight corners where the candelabra meets the stem. You verify that no pink dust is left hiding in the crevices. A good butler judges a footman not by the shine on the smooth parts, but by the absence of paste in the difficult parts. Leaving white residue in the engraving is the mark of a sloppy amateur. A mainstream historical fact to consider as you brush. Silver in the Edwardian era was not just decoration, it was a lighting system. Before the widespread use of electric bulbs, houses were lit by candles and oil lamps, which are dim sources of light. Silver was used to amplify that light. The polished silver candelabra didn't just hold the candle. Its surface acted as a mirror, doubling the lumens and bouncing the warm glow around the dining room. When you polish this metal, you were literally brightening the room for the evening. You finish the brushwork on the candelabra and set it aside. It is gleaming, but it is not yet finished. It needs the final buff. But first, you must address the flatware. You reach for the largest item on the table, the salver. This is a massive, heavy serving tray, essentially a slab of solid silver the size of a shield. It is flat, wide, and unforgiving. Unlike the busy, decorative surface of the candelabra, the salver is nowhere to hide. It is a vast expanse of metal that must be perfect. You pick up the chamois leather. You rub a little fresh, slightly damp paste onto the leather itself, rather than the tray. You lean over the table. You place the leather on the center of the tray, and you begin the motion. Round and round. You do not scrub back and forth. Back and forth leaves streaks. Back and forth is for scrubbing floors. Silver requires circles. Tiny overlapping concentric circles. You press down with the heel of your hand. You feel the friction. At first the paste slides easily, but as you work, it begins to drag. You feel the heat building up in the metal. The friction generates warmth, and that warmth helps the chemical reaction. Rub, rub, rub. You fall into a trance. This is the part of the job that dissolves time. You stop thinking about the weather. You stop thinking about the servants' gossip you heard in the hall. You stop thinking about your aching feet. Your world narrows down to a circle the size of a coin. You work your way from the center of the tray outward, spiraling slowly toward the rim. It is hypnotic. Your arm moves in a steady rhythm, a human piston. The only sound in the room is the soft shhh of the leather against the metal and the ticking of the clock. A quirky fringe tidbit. There is a phenomenon known in the antique trade as blind silver. This happens when an overzealous butler polishes a piece of silver so often and so aggressively that they actually wear the detail away. You can find Victorian teapots where the intricate floral engravings have been rubbed almost smooth, or spoons where the bowl has become razor sharp at the edge. In grand houses, the plate was cleaned so frequently, sometimes daily, that the silver was literally being erased, atom by atom, by the soft leather and the rouge. You are slowly, lovingly, destroying the thing you are saving. You reach the edge of the salver, where the rim is decorated with a pie crust edge, a scalloped border. You switch your grip, wrapping the chamois around your thumb to work into the curves. Your shoulder begins to ache with a dull, warm throb. It is a good ache. It is the feeling of effort applied to a tangible result. In a world of complex social hierarchies and unwritten rules, polishing silver is refreshingly simple. If you rub it, it shines. The input equals the output. You wipe the tray clean with a fresh corner of the leather. You lift it up to the light. The surface is no longer a tray. It is a liquid pool. You can see your own face reflected in it, distorted and stretched like a funhouse mirror. You can see the flames of the coal fire dancing in the reflection. You can see the wooden beams of the ceiling behind you. You have turned a piece of metal into a window. You breathe on the surface, a technique known as huffing. The moisture from your breath fogs the silver for a split second, creating a ghostly white patch. You quickly wipe it away with the velvet cloth. This removes the last microscopic film of grease. The shine deepens. It goes from bright white to a dark, endless black silver. This is the hard shine. The black shine. It looks like you could dip your hand into the metal and it would come out wet. You set the salver down next to the candelabra. You look at your hands. They are stained pink and gray, a mixture of the rouge and the oxidized silver sulfide you have removed. Your fingernails are outlined in black. These are the played hands mentioned earlier. You wipe them on your apron, but the stain is stubborn. It is part of you now. You look at the pile of unpolished spoons waiting on the left side of the table. There are dozens of them. Forks, knives, ladles, fish servers. A mountain of dull gray. You do not feel overwhelmed. You feel settled. You have nowhere else to be. The rain is tapping harder on the window now. A rhythmic drumming that matches the rhythm of your arm. You pick up a spoon. You dip your cloth. You begin the circles again. Round and round and round. The repetition acts as a sedative. Your breathing slows. Your eyelids feel heavy. The shine of the silver begins to blur slightly in your vision. You are a machine of restoration, fighting back the entropy of the universe one spoon at a time, locked safely away in the warm, chemical-smelling womb of the butler's pantry. You lay the final spoon on the green felt table. It joins the ranks of its brothers, a shimmering, orderly battalion of sterling silver. The heavy lifting is done. The chemical reaction is complete. The pink paste has been applied, dried, brushed, and rubbed away. The room feels different now. The sharp, stinging scent of the ammonia has faded, settling into the background. The air is warmer, heavier. The coal fire in the grate has burned down to a deep, pulsing bed of red embers, casting long, wavering shadows across the floor. The grandfather clock in the hall chimes the quarter hour. Dawn. It is late. Or perhaps it is early. Time doesn't matter here. Only the finish matters. You pick up the velvet cloth, the velvet polishing square. It is clean, dry, and incredibly soft. This is the final stage. The black polish. You pick up a fork. It already clean, but you give it one last caress with the velvet. You aren't removing dirt now. You are removing the memory of human touch. You wipe away the oil from your own fingertips. You buff the tines until they seem to disappear into the light. Squeak-dotty. The silver sings. It is a high, tight sound, the sound of absolute cleanliness. A surface so smooth that friction has almost ceased to exist. You move to the drawers. This is the most satisfying part of the entire evening. The putting away. You pull on the heavy brass handle of the cutlery cabinet. The drawer slides out on well-oiled runners. Whoosh. Inside, it is a landscape of perfectly organized green baize. A mainstream historical fact to visualize. An Edwardian cutlery drawer was not a jumble of utensils. It was a precision-engineered storage system. The drawer was lined with felt, and glued onto that felt were shaped blocks of wood, also covered in felt, that created a custom bed for every single item. There was a specific slot shaped exactly like a fish knife. A slot shaped exactly like a soup ladle. A slot shaped exactly like a grape scissor. It was a Tetris played with precious metal. You pick up the dinner forks, 12 of them. You stack them in your hand. They are cold and slippery. You place them, one by one, into their designated slots. Click. Dot-ain. The first fork nestles into its green bed. Click. Dot-main. The second fork stacks perfectly on top of the first. Click. Dot. Click. Dot. Click. Dot. The sound is solid. Secure. It is the sound of order being imposed on the universe. In a chaotic world, there is a profound comfort in knowing that this fork belongs exactly here, and nowhere else. You move to the spoons. There are so many types. You place the large, deep, bold soup spoons. You place the smaller, delicate dessert spoons. You place the tiny, strange-looking mustard spoons and the salt spoons. The quirky fringe tidbit, The Victorian and Edwardian obsession with specialized cutlery reached absurd heights. By 1905, a grand service could include up to 100 different types of eating implements. There were asparagus tongs, sardine forks, marrow scoops, long and thin for getting bone marrow, strawberry forks, and even ice cream hatchets. The butler's pantry was essentially an armory of dining tools, many of which were used perhaps once a year, yet each one had to be polished and accounted for. If a single salt spoon was missing, the entire house would be turned upside down until it was found. You check the inventory in your head. 12 dinner forks, 12 luncheon forks, 12 tablespoons, 12 teaspoons. Everything is present. Everything is correct. You slide the drawer shut. Thump. The silver is safe. It is sleeping in its velvet dark. Now, the larger piece. You pick up the massive salver you polished earlier. It is heavy, reflecting the dying firelight like a dark moon. You pick up a large drawstring bag made of green baize. You slide the tray inside. The fabric protects the shine you just spent an hour creating. You pull the drawstrings tight. You pick up the candelabra. It goes into a specially shaped wooden box lined with blue satin. You lower it in gently, fitting the base into the circular recess. You close the lid and latch it. Snap. You walk to the safe. You turn the key. The heavy iron door swings open. You place the bags and boxes onto the shelves. You are banking the family's wealth for the night. You close the safe door. You spin the wheel to lock the bolts. Clunk-chunk. The room is empty of silver now. The table is bare, save for the tools. You walk to the small stone sink in the corner of the pantry. You turn the brass tap. The water comes out cold and clear, splashing into the basin. You pick up a block of rough, yellow carbolic soap. .e. You wash your hands. You scrub at the black stains on your fingers, the plate hands. The water turns gray as the tarnish and rouge wash away. The soap smells medicinal and clean. You scrub your nails with a small brush. You rinse. The water runs clear. Your hands are red from the cold water and the scrubbing, but they are clean. You dry them on a rough linen towel. You untie your apron. It is stiff and dusty with pink powder. You fold it neatly, corner to corner, edge to edge, and place it in the laundry basket. You unroll your shirt sleeves and button the cuffs. You put your black jacket back on. You smooth the lapels. You look around the room one last time. The fire is just a heap of gray ash with a faint red heart. The oil lamp is burning low. The green felt table is empty and brushed clean. The tools are in the drawer. The safe is locked. You have done your duty. You have maintained the standard. The silver will be ready for breakfast. The illusion of effortless perfection has been preserved for another day. You reach up and turn the dial on the oil lamp. The flame shrinks. The shadows in the corners of the room leap forward. Darkness. The only light comes from the dying embers of the fire, casting a faint warm glow on the floor. The room is silent, except for the rain, which is now a steady, soothing drumbeat against the window pane. You step out into the hallway. You close the door of the butler's pantry. Click. Shhh-shhh. You walk down the flagstone corridor. Your footsteps are quieter now. The house feels heavier, settled. The kitchen is dark. The servants' hall is empty. The ticking of the clock seems slower, deeper. Tock, tock, tock. You reach the green baize door. You push it open. You step through from the stone world of the service wing back into the carpeted world of the family. But the family has gone to bed. The great hall is in shadow. The chandelier is dark. The house is asleep. Wind down. You stand at the bottom of the staircase for a moment, listening to the house. Grand old houses breathe at night. You can hear the timber beams contracting as they cool. You can hear the wind sighing in the chimneys. You can hear the rain wrapping the entire estate in a blanket of water. You are tired. It is a good tiredness. It is the tiredness of a job completed. Your shoulders feel loose. Your hands feel warm. You walk slowly up the stairs. You are not going to the grand bedrooms with their four-poster beds. You are going to your own small room, perhaps under the eaves, where the rain sounds closest. Imagine yourself climbing into a simple, narrow bed. The sheets are cool, crisp cotton. The blankets are heavy wool. You pull them up to your chin. You close your eyes. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you can still see the gleam of the silver. You can see the perfect concentric circles you rubbed into the metal. You can feel the satisfying click of the forks sliding into their slots. Everything is in its place. Everything is clean. Everything is locked away. You don't have to worry about the tarnish anymore. You don't have to worry about the sulfur or the air. That is a problem for tomorrow or next week. For now, there is only the dark, the warmth of the blankets, and the sound of the rain. Let the rhythm of the polishing follow you into sleep. Round and round and round. Smooth. Quiet. Shining. Drift away from the pantry. Drift away from the house. Drift into the silence. You are polished. You are safe. You are asleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.